I want to thank you so much for being here. Congratulations to the class of 2026. We are so excited to welcome you to Gettysburg College. Thank you for joining tonight for the Science and Research at Gettysburg panel. Tonight, our wonderful faculty and students will share a bit about science here at Gettysburg and what research looks like. Just a couple of notes, this session is being recorded, and we will also be using the Q&A feature. So if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, you want to let them know anything, you can go ahead and put it in the Q&A, which is located at the bottom of your screen. But I'm going to sit back and toss this over to my wonderful colleague, Dr. Shelli Frey, and have her and her panelists introduce themselves and jump right into the presentation. Thanks so much for being here.
Absolutely. So thank you, Tyra, for that introduction. Hopefully everybody can see our slides that are hanging out there. We want to welcome you to about 30 minutes of information on science and research, and we look forward to taking some of your questions and hearing a little bit more, maybe potentially about your interest in Gettysburg. And so just as a brief introduction, there's 4 of us that'll be giving you some information today. First, I'm a department. My name is Shelli Frey, and I am also chair of biochemistry and molecular biology. Then Sarah Principato, professor of environmental studies, will talk a little bit about science and research, particularly in the ES department. And then we have 2 students, 2 seniors actually, Jordan Markle, who is a BMB major, and Emma Hedgepeth, who is a biology major, who are going to talk about their experiences performing research in sciences at Gettysburg. So we thought we'd start off with a bit of a broad overview. And so I thought it was nice to do some kind of maybe fast facts about STEM or the sciences at Gettysburg. And so in terms of programs that we have here, they're quite wide ranging. And I'm just going to read through the list just to highlight what we have in terms of majors and minors in environmental studies and psychology and neuroscience. We have health sciences, biology, biochemistry and molecular biology, chemistry, physics, astronomy, computer science, data science, and math. So we cover quite a wide range depending on what your particular interests are. And even with that, we have many interdisciplinary courses that actually cross the boundaries between the different science fields. So we're seeing courses that are actually between environmental studies and biology, for example, or chemistry and physics, depending on what your interests are. Those classes can be quite fantastic. In addition to the programs directly here at Gettysburg, we have a dual degree engineering program where students can actually spend 3 years at Gettysburg to earn their bachelor's degree here and then finish their engineering degree at other schools. In fact, one of my recent research students, Jonathan Trieres, finished his BMB or biochemistry and molecular biology degree here 2 years ago. And in about a month, will actually be graduating from Washington University with a degree in biomedical engineering. So using that dual degree engineering program. In terms of figures of what happens to our students after they're leaving Gettysburg, in a recent 1-year out survey from the class of 2019, 100% of our STEM respondents were either employed or attending graduate school. So our students are quite well prepared upon leaving and graduating Gettysburg to go out and get jobs and go to graduate school. And one other piece of data is within a 10-year time frame, 139 of our Gettysburg graduates actually completed PhDs. So they went on to graduate schools and got PhDs in STEM or STEM-related fields. So how exactly are we doing this? How are we preparing our students to be so successful both in the workforce and in graduate school? One of the ways that we're doing that is through a program called XSIG. And I'm sure if you've noticed as you're going on visits to different colleges, as you're trying to make some of your decisions in this time, there's tons of acronyms everywhere. This acronym is the Cross-Disciplinary Science Institute at Gettysburg College. It was founded in 2012. We had a nice sizable grant from that of the Howard Hughes Medical Institute. And the point of XSIG is to help our students to be research ready, research active, and research connected. So we start off with preparing our students to be research ready through coursework. And the coursework could be interdisciplinary courses or research-based course experiences. So for example, in your sophomore year genetics class, you're actually taking a course in the lab where you're doing an independent research project working with C. elegans, which are these microscopic little worms where you're doing genetics-based experiences. And you're actually choosing the parameters and the scientific questions that you're asking about these worms and the experience. So you're already in your sophomore year doing some of these independent research experiences. So then we move on to Research Active. In terms of Research Active, we have funding through XSIG for independent research. This is both during the academic year and the summer, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And then our students are quite successful in the lab and are then going to share this research with others, and there's support for student travel to academic conferences. The photo on our slide here is one of our biology majors and one of our B&B majors who are at an academic conference presenting that of their research. In terms of Research Connected, we want to make sure that our students are able to communicate their research beyond that of their lab, and as well as be connected with folks outside of their direct discipline. So we have a cross-disciplinary seminar series. And what we do here is we invite in scientists who are able to speak to a broad audience. And so they're actually required when we invite them to give a general interest lecture. And in the general interest lecture, we're going to have mathematicians as well as biologists and environmental studies students all in the audience. And one of my favorite examples of that is we had a mathematician come in who was doing differential equations and a variety of different types of math research, but she was doing it on circadian rhythms. And so it was essentially about the math and the science of sleep, which was just a fabulous talk that many people got a lot out of. Additionally, we have STEM House. So STEM House is one of our theme houses, which is quite popular, where about 45 to 50 students who are interested in STEM or the sciences are all actually living together. So in terms of our independent research experiences, if we have a program during the summer, which we refer to as our XSIG Summer Research Program, it takes approximately 70 students, and these 70 students work full-time in the lab, so that's like 40 hours a week, and they do this for 8 weeks. Within this, it includes a stipend, which is quite nice, and free housing, and the photo on the upper left is actually of our Summer 21 research participants. We were very fortunate to be able to have a mostly on-campus experience, which was just fabulous after what we had going on in summer 2020 when everything was remote. The photo on the right is that of actually Zeke from our physics department working hands-on with that of a particle accelerator, and that research was being done on campus. Additionally, as well as the research that's going on in the lab and in the field, which you'll hear about in a few moments from Professor Principato, we also have programming outside the lab, which is something that makes XSIG research quite unique, in that we have different components which are getting folks outside the lab and being able to communicate with one another. And so one of my favorite examples is we have a brown bag lunch series where we take students from different disciplines. So for instance, a mathematician and a biologist, and we have them sit at the same table at lunch and explain their research to one another. And so in doing so, they're learning to kind of break down the jargon within that of their disciplines and how can they communicate their research to somebody who maybe hasn't taken a biology class since 10th grade in high school. As part of our research series, or part of our summer research, we also have all of our students write in a blog. And so for those of you who are interested, you can go and see the types of research projects and what really our students are doing on a day-to-day basis with another blog, which the link is right there, but it's a WordPress blog that you can go check out. So that is research over the summer, which is quite nice that it's immersive, but there's also quite a few research experiences that occur during the academic year. So this is a bit more generic in terms of independent research with faculty on campus. And so we generally encourage any student that's interested to join a research team. What's nice is that the research is occurring between students and faculty in all departments and all programs. So all the ones that I was listing on the first page all have faculty working with students with their independent research. In many cases, we are having students that are presenting their research at conferences, and these are regional conferences, but also national conferences. I recently just took 4 of my research students to the Biophysical Society conference in San Francisco, which was a fabulous experience, in which one of my students will be telling you about in just a few moments. And so our students are really able to then present their research along PhD students and faculty from other institutions, and are just able to really experience that, which is fabulous. In terms of publishing their research, our students, because they're working alongside us in the lab, when we are publishing our papers, we're often including our students as co-authors, which is just a fantastic experience to prepare our students for our careers beyond Gettysburg. And so as you can imagine, when you're doing a science major at Gettysburg, you're prepared for a career in research. You're also being prepared for a career in medicine, depending on your coursework and teaching. But what we like to say is that often we're teaching our students to think like scientists. And in doing so, that means doing things like problem solving and data analysis, and being able to look at different problems from different points of view. So a lot of these excuse me, a lot of these things that they're learning here are actually highly sought after in many different fields, such as finance and consulting. And so our students are highly sought after in terms of their careers following Gettysburg, whether it's within that of science or outside of that of science. And so that's kind of a broad overview to kind of science and research at Gettysburg. And so I'm going to pass this over to my colleague, Sarah from Environmental Studies, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about specific experiences within that of the Environmental Studies program.
Great. Thanks, Shelli. So I just wanted to start off by kind of re-emphasizing something that Dr. Frey already said, is that your courses at Gettysburg are going to have research in them. So it does, you know, right away, pretty much when you get to campus. And so here's just some examples in environmental studies. We are an interdisciplinary department. We have 2 ecologists and I'm a geoscientist. So you could study marine ecology, wildlife ecology. I specialize in glacial geology. So those are some of the options. So just showing you some slides from some field trips that we take. So our lab is outside. So it's a little bit, I mean, we do also do analyses inside, but a lot of our work includes field work, and we get students out and collecting data and testing hypotheses in the field. So then the next slide just shows another few pictures from the ecology class, where they go to Assateague Island and collect little mole crabs and study them. And then the other picture on the right is looking right here in Gettysburg at some ecology in the battlefield. So this is in a 200 level class that all ES majors take. So you get right away, you get into the field. And then the next slide is showing you some EXIG research that my colleague Andy Wilson has done with students. He is an expert on birds and wildlife, and then he also uses drones to study the birds. So these were some of the students that have worked with him over the years as part of the EXIG program. And then his students have presented at conferences, and you can see just some examples in this slide of that. And then these are 2 of my students. This was the last field season I had before COVID shut us all down, summer of 2019. We went to the Pharaoh Islands. So this is Kiki Wallach and Alana Sobel, and they were part of the EXIG program as well. So it included funding for the travel. So if you don't know where the Pharaoh Islands are, they're here at this red dot in the middle in between Norway, Iceland, and the UK. And, you know, it's an island. So we were on a boat studying some of the landforms. And then the next slide shows you the landform we were focused on. I don't know if you can really tell what it is. It's this small little depression that used to have a glacier in it. It's called a cirque. And so Kiki, who's in this picture, she's the first author on this paper with me studying the cirques in the Faroe Islands. So I can send you the link to the article if you want to read it. But the reason I wanted to show you this one is because at Gettysburg, you'll do research with professors that can be published. And there's no, like at bigger universities, I don't know if any of you are trying to decide between a big university and Gettysburg College, but here we only have undergraduates, so there are no graduate students. So all of our undergrads are fantastic research assistants. So there's no levels of trying to get to the professor. You work right with us, so you get you in the field, the lab, and all that. And Kiki actually just this morning spoke to my class about her MS research at Temple. She's working on studying the Antarctic ice sheet and sea ice around Antarctica. So that's just one example. I also have, over the years, brought a lot of different students to Iceland. It's actually one of my main areas of research, studying the glaciers in Iceland and the landforms that they leave behind. So we're doing a variety of things in these pictures. I won't go through all of them, but basically the story is that glaciers are melting and they're leaving lots of landforms behind that we can analyze. And so hopefully this summer we have plans to go back now and collect some new data this summer as part of the EXIG program. I think I have one more Iceland slide just to show you some more students. And Brittany is now at the University of Wisconsin and Marion is at the University of Virginia, both who did the EXIG program, and which is part of their first research experience, independent research that they had done. And it's helped them really a lot in their graduate programs that they're in now. And then you might not always go in the field. So last summer, we were lucky to have the EXIG program on campus, but we still had some travel limitations. So here's Hallie Mastro, who's doing a lot of computer analyses of landforms because we couldn't go there. So just to show you, I wish I had the lab a little cleaner in that slide. I realized, but go to the next one. So the last slide is this is my last slide, just to show you, again, some examples of conferences. So Hallie, we just went to that conference a few weeks ago. And she's going off to the University of Vermont to study sediments beneath the Greenland ice sheet for her master's project. And I just wanted to show you Dr. Nikita LaCruz on the left, because she was a chemistry and environmental science double major. And so I just wanted to point that out, that if you like two of the sciences, you can do a double major. So that's definitely an option. And this actually worked really well for Nikita, because she then went on to get a master's in geology and then a PhD in geochemistry from the University of Michigan. And it's one of the top programs in geochemistry in the country. So those are all my slides, and I'm happy to answer questions later.
Hi, my name is Emma Hedgepeth, and I am a senior biology major, and I've had the great opportunity of being able to do research in the chemistry department here at Gettysburg, which has not only exposed me to a potential and future career, but it's also allowed me to form relationships with my professors and with my fellow classmates, which has been one of the highlights of my college time. And so my research experience started the summer after my junior year when I applied to the XSIG program. And so it's a really unique opportunity that we have as undergraduates to be able to work really closely with our professors and to be able to develop our lab skills beyond just the classroom. And we do that by learning how to use instruments like the one that I have pictured here. This is called the ICP OES. And we use it to do elemental analysis on all different types of solutions for a variety of different projects across campus. And so as science majors, it's really important that we have this type of technical knowledge when we're applying for jobs in graduate schools after college. And so the other thing that I really appreciated about the XSIG program is that they really emphasize an interdisciplinary approach to research. And so although I technically work in the chemistry department with my primary research advisor, Dr. Thompson, I've also been able to work closely with professors in the biology and physics departments. And so I was able to collaborate with multiple experts in their field on a joint research project that I'm happy to talk to you guys about in the next couple of slides. And so the Thomson lab in general focuses on the surface properties of gold nanoparticles, which is just gold on the nanoscale. And they have a variety of applications, including in the treatment of prostate cancer. And so the company Nanospectra Biosciences has actually developed a type of gold nanoparticle that can accumulate in cancer cells. And then when heat is applied to this area, these gold nanoparticles heat up, and then they selectively destroy the tumor cells. And so not only have gold nanoparticles been used in the research setting, they've also been incorporated into a variety of different consumer products, including sunscreen, makeup, clothing, and even drinks. And these types of products are worth over $1 trillion in global markets. And so as gold nanoparticles begin to be synthesized in larger and larger quantities, they will inevitably enter our aquatic ecosystems. And so where our research comes in, we're interested in seeing how these gold nanoparticles are interacting with the organisms that are living in these types of environments. And so then in order to carry out this analysis, we use the freshwater clam Spherium striatinum, which can actually be found locally here in Gettysburg. We then expose them to gold nanoparticles that we synthesize in our lab, and which you can actually see in this picture at the bottom here. We took this image with a transmission electron microscope, which is actually located here on campus in our imaging suite, which is pretty rare to have access to as a liberal arts college. And so it's really amazing to be able to get this type of data for our research. And so once we expose the clams to these gold nanoparticles, we then need to quantify the amount that has accumulated in their soft tissue. And we do this by using the instrument that I mentioned on one of the previous slides, the ICP OES. And so this then leads us to kind of our final research question of whether or not these adult clams that we're exposing to gold nanoparticles transfer them to their offspring. And so these clams hold their juveniles or their young baby clams inside of their bodies. And so during the course of the experiment, they're inside the adult during the exposure period, and then they give birth at the end of the experiment. And so we know that this process of transferring gold nanoparticles from parent to offspring occurs in mammals, but this process occurs in invertebrate organisms such as these. And so finally, as I was able to do this really amazing research over the summer and over the course of my senior year here, I was also able to form really great friendships with my lab mates, Delaney and Jackie, who are pictured here on the slides. And I was also able to form great relationships with my professors, including Dr. Thompson and other professors across the departments that have participated in XSIG. And so I'm very appreciative of the work that professors like Dr. Frey and Dr. Principato do to allow us as Gettysburg College students to have these types of experiences. And I would also like to thank you guys for listening to me today.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jordan Markle. I'm a senior biochemistry and molecular biology major, and I've been in the Frey lab in the chemistry department for about the past 3 years now. And I've been very fortunate to have 3 summers of XSIG research. I got into research my first year on campus, where I applied to the XSIG summer program, and I was fortunately selected to join the Frey lab. And I spent 9 weeks on campus learning how to do research. And it was really great as a first year student, rising sophomore, to be able to have a project and really learn how to do science. I had no research experience coming into college. I had barely even picked up a pipette. So it was really wonderful to have the opportunity to learn how to conduct research and to see myself grow. And really over the 3 years I've gotten the chance to do XSIG, I've really been amazed at how much I've grown as a scientist and as a person. I've become so much more confident in my research abilities and in my planning for experiments. So I've really come leaps and bounds from my first summer when I asked Dr. Frey for advice before every step of an experiment to now when I'm pretty independent in the lab. And so the XSIG summer research program is just a wonderful way to connect with the chemistry department or whatever department you're in, as well as really develop your scientific skills. And so here are just some pictures from the few summers I've done XSIG. So it's not all science, it's, a lot of science full time, but we do have quite a bit of fun too. The picture on the lower right is of a hike we took during the first summer. And then we have some pictures of me using the various instruments we have. So this middle picture down towards the left, that is me with the circular dichroism spectropolarimeter. And there's a really neat instrument that our faculty were able to acquire from writing a grant. So we have access to some really amazing instruments that are pretty rare to have at a small liberal arts college. And then to talk a little bit more about my research, so I study the interaction of lipid membranes with Huntington protein. So Huntington protein is associated with Huntington's disease, which is a neurodegenerative disease, much like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, in that it causes issues with memory, physical movement, speech. And in this brain picture, on the right is a healthy brain, and on the left is the brain of an individual with Huntington's disease. So we can see how the brain tissue is worn away. And the cause of Huntington's disease is believed to be due to a mutation in Huntington protein that causes it to aggregate. And these aggregates can be toxic to cells. And something really interesting about Huntington protein is that it associates with cell membranes. And it is believed that the cell membrane essentially allows these proteins to come in contact and aggregate. And then those aggregate species are toxic and cause that cell loss. So this center picture is an image of the structure of Huntington protein. And then this graph to the right is showing circular dichroism spectra. So that instrument I mentioned on the previous slide, this is the data that we get from it. And what this is showing is that by increasing negative charge in the membrane, we see more interaction with Huntington protein. And so by understanding what it is about the membrane that leads to the association with Huntington protein, we can understand more about the course of the disease and hopefully contribute the knowledge necessary to develop therapeutics for Huntington's disease. And then these microscope images on the bottom were actually taken in our imaging suite, which is also where the TEM is located. And so this is using the fluorescence microscope. And on the left here, we see vesicles, which are essentially empty cells, I like to call them. So it's just the outer bilayer made of lipids, and they're spherical and they're floating around in solution. And then when we added Huntington protein to that sample, you can see in this picture on the right that all of the vesicles were destroyed. So what that tells us is that maybe the protein is causing membrane disruption that could lead to cell death. So we're gradually understanding more and more about why this disease occurs and the role of the cell membrane. So this has been really exciting research, and I've thoroughly enjoyed my chance to learn more about this system over the past 2 years. Another great part of the XSIG program is that we get to do poster sessions. So a great feature is that the summer research culminates in a poster session. And this generally takes place during family weekend. So everyone who participated in summer research gets to make a poster describing the background of their research and the results and conclusions. And then we are all set up in the Science Center, and family, professors, and other students can all come and talk to us about our research. So it's really useful for us because we get to learn how to adjust our talk based on our audience. So of course, I'm going to give a different presentation to Dr. Frey or another chemistry member than I am to my parents who haven't taken chemistry in 30 years. So we really get the chance to learn how to tailor our science communication to our audience, which is just a wonderful skill to have. And then we also get to have poster sessions at national conferences. So I was very fortunate to have had the opportunity to attend the Biophysical Society meeting in San Francisco this past February, where we had a whole lot of fun and we learned a whole lot. So this picture on the bottom left is my lab group who all got the chance to attend this conference. And it's really wonderful to have the opportunity to present my research at such a national level. We have graduate students presenting, we have undergraduates, we have professors, we have industry professionals. So it's really a great tool to both network and also to get ideas for your project. I walked away with enough suggestions from everyone that I'll have enough to do until I graduate, basically. So it's a really fantastic opportunity to present research at the same level as established professionals. And then as a result of my opportunities at Gettysburg, I was accepted to 10 PhD chemistry programs, and I just made it official yesterday that I'll be attending the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill to earn a PhD in biological chemistry. So my research experiences at Gettysburg have really set me up for success in the future. And I'm very excited to see where I will go from there. But Gettysburg has certainly given me the foundation to accomplish whatever I would like.
All right, so with that, I was just going to say we'd like to thank you for your attention. We have our contact information for each one of us up here. If you're interested in reaching out and asking us some additional questions beyond what happens within that of the webinar, feel free to reach out via email to any one of us.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much. And Jordan, congratulations. This is news to me. This is fantastic. I'm excited for you. It's going to be awesome. I had just 2 questions come in that I really wanted to get answered on screen that hopefully you guys can answer. So Emma and Jordan, there was a question about why Gettysburg, right? And why science at Gettysburg? And Dr. Frey, Dr. Principato, you guys can jump in as well about why do science at Gettysburg? What is that difference? And you guys have alluded to it throughout here and throughout the program, but let's dive in just a little bit.
Yeah, so I really love the Gettysburg campus. I mean, when I visited for my Get Acquainted Day, it really felt like home here. So that was a large part of my decision. And also, Our science building is really nice. It's a brand new, probably, I don't know how long it's been around, but it looks very new and modern. And we have a whole lot of really cool instruments that undergraduates can use. It's not Dr. Frey holding my hand as I operate the instrumentation. It's me getting trained and then being able to operate the instrumentation independently. So I think Gettysburg really invests a lot into the sciences. And so that really was a large factor in my decision to come here.
Yeah, similar to Jordan, I also felt very at home on campus. It's a very inclusive environment, not just from the other people that are attending, but also the professors. When you're here, they really make you feel like they're part of your family, and that you belong here no matter what your background is. And I specifically chose to do the sciences here because, like Dr. Principato mentioned, I knew I wouldn't be competing against graduate students. And I knew that if I worked hard and I asked, I could have these opportunities to do research, which is pretty cool to do as an undergraduate.
And you've both been able to do some amazing research, it sounds like. I am following along and being amazed as you were going. That's awesome. Dr. Frey, Dr. Principato, do you have anything that you want to add to that?
Sure. I'm happy to chime in. It was a while ago because I've been here for 14 years, but in terms of one of the reasons why I chose to come to Gettysburg is similar to that of Jordan in that it was kind of the community that I felt here. And so it wasn't just the community within that of the chemistry department, which was obviously very welcoming, but the community kind of across that of the sciences. And I think what we've really been able to do kind of through the last 10 years with that of EXIG is kind of really work on promoting that even further, right? So it's not just that we have the chemists are hanging out over here and the biologists are hanging out over here, but we're actually able to kind of come together, not only as faculty, but having our students come together. And we're doing this through the coursework where we're teaching courses that are cross-listed across departments. We're doing this in research projects. You heard Emma was actually working on a project with 3 different faculty in 3 different departments. And this is relatively unusual at a small liberal arts college. And so I would say that's unique to Gettysburg. And it's just really nice to have that environment where I think it's all about, in many cases, learning how to solve problems. And to solve problems, you have to look at them from different points of view, which means you need to learn how to look at them from different points of view. And I think the way that we have kind of shaped our division across that of the sciences is really helpful for that.
Yeah, I will just add, I agree. It's a different environment in the summer too when we do the EXIG. It's very, I don't know, everyone gets to be like a mini graduate student, even when I keep saying we don't have graduate students. And so you get to really jump into your research and you really get a sense of what it would be like. And for some students, it really helps build their resume, whether they go on for a job or graduate school. And when I bring students to conferences, people often think my students are graduate students and they get confused with, once they see they're from Gettysburg and they know we don't have grad students. But I really enjoy being part of that program. There's also a STEM Scholar program that I very much enjoy being part of as well. And so we have it's a special program. I don't know if anyone on the webinar has been accepted into the STEM Scholar program. I'm happy to talk more about it, but it's really fabulous because I get to know the students. I know the students like to get to know each other, but I also really enjoy meeting the students in the other sciences besides just environmental studies and hearing their experiences and all the fabulous things they're doing and whether they're applying for, we have a fellowship or a scholarship called the Goldwater that the college can nominate students for. And Gettysburg students routinely win this. And so, I get to be part of with Dr. Frey interviewing these students. And it's, even though, I've never even had some of them in class, it's just so wonderful to see them win. And you're just so happy. So just thought I'd add those things.
The support is just real, I can feel it coming off, and I can see it in the experiences, and that's what all the students at Gettysburg are able to get. But if you also, accepted students, are able to take a class with Dr. Frey, Dr. Principato, you absolutely should. That is a choice you should make for sure. But I wanted to make sure we got that question out, right, because it's important, and definitely important at this stage. A couple more questions had rolled in, so I think we have time to get to 2, and then we'll start to close out, okay? So one of them is, how difficult is it to be accepted into the Cross-Disciplinary Science Institute program?
All right, well, I'll take that one. As the coordinator, I spent a lot of time looking at the applications. I can actually give some numbers and then I can talk and put that in a little bit of context, in that we have approximately 60 positions that are funded through that of EXIG, as well as there are quite a few faculty who also have funded positions through grants or through that of their departments. So I think this summer we had maybe 72 students that were accepted to EXIG, and that came from about 115 applications. So while it is competitive, it's still a rather high percentage of our students that are chosen. I'd also like to point out that it's from a variety of different class years. And so we have rising seniors, rising juniors, and rising sophomores, and that it's spread out. And often I actually teach general chemistry. So second semester general chemistry, which in the spring is when students are applying for EXIG. And many of my students thought, oh, I don't have any research experience. How would I get accepted to said program? And I point out to them that actually the rising sophomores are sometimes actually the largest number of students that are accepted, because we as faculty really like to encourage this enthusiasm for that of research. So while generally from a year to year, it is a competitive process, what I like to point out is that if a student applies 1 year and doesn't get accepted, that they are almost guaranteed to be accepted within that of the next year, because in many cases what we're looking for is the enthusiasm and the excitement for that of research, and it just depends on how many spots there are in a particular research group. So in my 14 years here, I can't think of a single student who really wanted to have a research experience in the chemistry or biochemistry and molecular biology kind of programs that wasn't given some type of research experience. So competitive, yes, because there's so many people who are excited to do it, but there are ample opportunities, as well as opportunities to do research elsewhere, which we're quite supportive of in terms of helping our students put together those applications.
Awesome. Yes, Jordan, jump in.
I was just going to add that the EXIG program isn't the only way to do research. It is our summer research program, but there are ample opportunities to get involved in research during the academic year as well. The chemistry department offers a quarter credit class to do about 3 hours of research a week. So that's a great way to start trying out research and seeing if it's for you. So there are ample opportunities to work in a lab during the school year as well.
Thank you. I appreciate you both. Let's do one more question and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. And one of it is the engineering, right? We have a dual degree engineering program. Dr. Frey, you mentioned this as we were starting out. Could we dive in more just a little bit? And do we know more information or what the prerequisites might look like for a dual major program? Maybe combining engineering and environmental sciences.
So I could just speak to a little of this, as I just had a student who went through the process of applying for this, and maybe Sarah can speak specifically to that of the environmental engineering aspect. But the way that it works here is we have a faculty advisor for that of our dual degree program, which is currently seated in the physics department. And so anyone who's interested in these programs actually gets this person kind of assigned to them as their advisor. And even from the website, there are clear, these are the courses one needs to take for these particular programs. And so we have dual degree programs at, I think, somewhere between 4 and 6 different schools, depending on the type of engineering you want to do. And within, even on the website, all that information is laid out. So if you want to be this type of major and you want to go on and do this type of engineering, here's the coursework you should take. And so many of our students do this within that of a 3-2 program. So that's 5 years for both degrees. But there's also students who do this in a 4-2 type fashion, which is what my student did. And that's because while he was here, he wanted to do biochemistry and molecular biology. He wanted to study abroad, and he also wanted to minor in math. And there are only so many hours in the day. So it took him actually 4 years to do those things, and then 2 years to go on and do the engineering degree, which is finishing up. But in terms of prereqs and details like that, that information is all available through that of the kind of faculty coordinator. But maybe Sarah can speak a little bit more specifically to the environmental engineering aspect.
Yes, I've had 2 students recently actually do the 3-2. So what you do, as Dr. Frey already mentioned, you would be set up with the engineering advisor, and there are literally checklists. But so you would be an environmental studies major with a Bachelor of Science. You focus on environmental science through our ES program, but then you have a sequence of math courses you need to take and physics courses, and then there's a variety of other courses as well. I don't have them all memorized. And then you can apply. Right now, one of my advisees is at Columbia University doing her the 3-2 program, Megan, and then another student is finishing up at, actually she might have finished last year, Washington University in St. Louis. So those are, they did 3 years at Gettysburg. So you kind of compress your 3 years a little bit, and then you go on for 2 years at the other institution, and then you have 2 degrees at the end of it all. The other thing I've had advisees do, they do 4 years at Gettysburg, but then they go on to graduate school in engineering. So that is another option if you want to do that. And we've had physics, ES double majors that have done that fairly. I mean, it's not that uncommon actually, because like Dr. Frey said, they want to study abroad, they want to do all these things as well. And so to fit it all in, sometimes you need 4 years to do it. But the 3-2 is definitely feasible as well. And to get into Columbia and, you know, these top ranked programs through Gettysburg is really a good advantage if you want to do that.
Right. Yeah. Some of the schools that we have partnerships with, right, you know, Washington University in St. Louis, Rensselaer Polytechnic, you know, they are fantastic schools. They don't necessarily need to have a partnership with us, but they know the quality of students coming from Gettysburg, and they know the quality of the sciences here at Gettysburg. And so our students do fantastic. Right, they're well prepared. And I think, you know, what you can absolutely take away from today is that you won't ever be alone. You will always have an advisor or 2 or a whole bunch, as many as you want. Definitely 2 for sure. But thank you so much for answering that question. And I think we still have a little bit of time, so I'm going to squeeze in one more question if you all are up for it, panelists. And it's just about life after Gettysburg, right? So our students are accepted and they're already wondering how we're moving on. But what types of places do our students work in once they graduate, right? So we know Jordan's going to grad school, and we have a lot of our students doing grad school after that. But what about those who go right into working? What does that look like for them?
Oh, sorry, Dr. Frey, you go ahead.
You go ahead. Tell them what you're going to do, Emma. What you're thinking about.
So that's currently kind of my plan right now. I've been applying to jobs, mostly at like University of Pennsylvania, Temple, because I want to kind of remain in the Philly area. I have a friend who's working at kind of a small biotech startup company in Boston. I have other friends that are working for Eurofins in Lancaster. And so a Gettysburg education definitely gets you very far. They have been able to get great jobs, and hopefully, and I'm also in that process of applying right now. And so it's definitely feasible, especially with the research opportunities here, to get really good jobs right out of college.
Yeah, I'll just chime in a little bit. And some of those friends that Emma was describing were actually the examples that I was going to give. But I would say our students are quite well prepared within the sciences, especially for a variety of types of jobs. And so these are things like national labs, where we're seated is relatively close to DC and Bethesda. So we actually have quite a few students that go and work at the NIH. They can do this through a post-baccalaureate type program, or whether it be that of a gap year working as research technicians. Because we're close to Philly, we also have quite a few students who go there. One of the students that works across the hall from me is actually going to be working at CHOP next year. We also have students who don't go into the sciences, as I mentioned previously. In this EXIG Summer of Research program, we have a panel on careers following that of Gettysburg. And I'm always very cognizant of the fact that some of our students, while really liking sciences and wanting to major in it, want to do other things with that of their lives. And so some of the great examples we've had recently are, we had students who went into more kind of engineering and that kind of more building rather than the science side of things, and working for startup companies. And it was a desalination plant that they were actually working for. And then another example is 2 or 3 of my students who've gone into finance and consulting and been well recruited. And one of them is actually now working at the Hershey company doing consulting for some of their new product lines. So a little bit removed from the biophysical chemistry that they were doing here, but they were very well prepared for it based on the types of things that they learned while at Gettysburg.
Yeah, I'll just add that with your liberal arts degree, you can do many different things, and it's the same in environmental studies. We have, alums working for NASA and the EPA and state agencies to environmental agencies in states. So government work is pretty popular for us, and also working for nonprofits is very popular. Teachers, you can do a variety of things with your STEM degree if you want to teach. We have a good number of science teachers that came from Gettysburg. So there's a lot of options, and I'm probably forgetting half of them right now because I'm getting tired. But yeah, there's tons of things you can do with your degree right after. Peace Corps is popular also.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much. You are such great panelists, and I love the energy. And I love the accepted students energy. They had some great questions. So you can continue to connect with us in various ways. You can see it on the screen here. Feel free to check out the QR code. It'll take you directly to the accepted student website that is designed just for you. But we thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations again on your acceptance, and we wish you the best in making your college decision. Take care.